Hey guys, welcome to an episode of Plant-Based Kristen. We're going to make what I'm going to affectionately call leftover soup. So basically I have this my fun that I made last night, and I'm going to use the noodles and most of the vegetables from it, and I'm going to use it to make a soup. This is good for when you have leftovers that you are worried about not being able to get through in time before they go bad, but it's also good when you want minimal prep. So what I'm adding to this, just because this is what I have on hand and what I was in the mood for, is I'm going to slice up some daikon. I have a couple of small onions, and I'm also going to slice up some mushroom, and I'm going to use all of that in this soup. So I'm going to do this prep, and then I will be back. Okay, so prep is done. I've got 3 cloves of garlic that I chopped up here. I've got sliced onions and sliced mushrooms, and then I've got this daikon and then the leftover soup. I have 8 cups. I'm actually going to tilt this a little bit. I have 8 cups of water that I put into a bowl, chilling there and ready. And then I've got my pot here with a 1/4 cup of water. So one thing that's changed since the last time that I did a video is I am no longer cooking with oil. I actually stopped because I noticed that it makes me break out. So I am no longer adding oil to my dishes, so I just use water instead. And I found that from a flavor standpoint, I don't really notice much of a difference. Even when I do things like roasting vegetables and stuff, they still turn out, really nice, and they still get that nice golden crispiness on the outside. So yeah, I don't really use oil anymore when I cook. So I've got a 1/4 cup of water in this pan. I'm just going to wait for it to come to a boil. Once it comes to a boil, I'm going to add the onions and the mushrooms until the onions are softened, about 5 minutes maybe of cooking. And then I'm going to add the garlic for 1 minute until the garlic gets really fragrant, and then I'm going to do my dry spices and my wet spices as well. I'm going to use this really great vegan oyster sauce that I got. Let me actually grab that. I got this from veganessentials.com. The site is really cool. It has a lot of stuff, especially it's good for new vegans in my opinion, but it's this vegetarian style oyster sauce, and it's mushroom based. I think it's fantastic. We're going to use some of that. And we're also going to use some soy sauce. I have this low sodium soy sauce that I use, and I just get it from Giant Eagle. It's one of the grocery stores near me. And we're going to use that as kind of like a soup base because I don't have any vegetable stock. I have not made any in a while. So we're just going to use plain water here. And so that's going to help just give flavor to the broth in general. And then things that I like to add to my soups for flavoring, I do pink Himalayan sea salt, pepper, celery salt, garlic powder, onion powder. Pretty simple, but that's actually what I use to season most of my foods. We got some smoking going on here. And then I got some scallions too. This adds just a really nice flavor. These are left over from when I make tacos. It adds a really nice flavor if you use the scallions as like the base for soup, so I'm going to throw this in at the same time I throw the garlic in. So like I said, first step will be the onions and the mushrooms. I'm going to cook this until tender, about 5 minutes. Then I'm going to add the garlic and the scallions, and then I'll be back. Alright, so onions and mushrooms were sauteed for 5 minutes until they got tender. The garlic and the scallions have been in there for a minute. Now I'm adding the dry seasonings, and I'm also going to add the water as well as the daikon because that takes longer to cook. Just mix that up really well. So I'm going to cook the dry seasonings for a minute just until they're well mixed in with everything else. And then I'm going to add the broth and the vegetables that take a long time to cook. This is something that I use as a base for most of my soups. So if you're making a soup and you're using celery, carrot, onion, mushrooms, peppers, any of the above, you add those in first. And then if you're using any vegetables that take a while to cook, like potatoes or in this case daikon, you add that in first as soon as you add the broth before you bring it to a boil. And then if you have any vegetables that cook super fast, like I'm going to be using some baby spinach, you're going to put that in last because that cooks really quickly. So that is my rule for soups. I have 8 cups of water here. I'm just going to very carefully pour this in. I like making a lot of soup when I make soup, and then here's my daikon. Just going to mix that up. And then I'm going to bring it to a boil. Now the great thing about using leftovers is I don't have to worry about actually cooking that. I'm just going to be adding it and then heating it up basically. And then I'm also adding some edamame. Edamame, I get the pre-shelled edamame from the Asian market. And the great thing about this is it just has to boil for 3 minutes. So it's super quick and easy. And the spinach too cooks super quickly too. So I'll be putting that in at the very, very end when I put the noodles, the leftover noodles in. And then the soup will pretty much be done. I am going to add the oyster sauce and the soy sauce as well, but I'm going to wait until it's boiling and I'm going to taste everything and see how much of each I want to add. Okay, our soup is boiling. I'm going to check the daikon and I'm going to see if it's ready. I added my dry seasonings. I ended up doing about a teaspoon and a half of celery salt, 2 teaspoons of garlic powder and onion powder, and I did 2 tablespoons of this yummy vegan oyster sauce. I haven't added any soy sauce yet, and I'm not sure if I'm going to. I'm going to taste it and I'm going to see how I feel about it. And let's see if this daikon is cooked. It's getting there, but it's still a little crunchy. So I had sliced my daikon fairly thin, maybe into like 1/2 inch pieces. So it makes it cook faster because daikon actually takes a really long time to cook. So I'm going to say maybe 5 more minutes on this. Let's taste our broth. I'm going to use my kitty spoon again. I got this little spoon from the Asian market, and I don't know if you can see it, but it's got a little cat in it. Little happy cat. That was really good. Yeah, I'm going to add a little bit of soy sauce. We're going to try 2 tablespoons we're going to start with. It just adds a little umami to the soup. Mix it up. Smells so good. And then we're going to give it 5 more minutes. And then we're going to see if the daikon is a little bit more tender. And then we're going to taste it and probably re-season. And then we're going to add in the edamame and the leftovers and the spinach. Okay, so you're probably going to be with me for the rest of the video. So I'm probably not going to pause it anymore. But the daikon is nice and tender. I tried the broth and I did end up adding you already saw me add the 2 tablespoons of soy sauce. Yeah, I haven't seasoned it since the 2 tablespoons of soy sauce. I'm going to write the recipe down too. That's one thing I'm actually really horrible at doing, but I am going to start getting better at that, I promise. And I'll start providing recipes with these videos. I'm adding just the remainder of this edamame. A pack is 14 ounces, and this was maybe 1/3 of what normally comes in the pack. So it was like 4 point something ounces. So edamame cooks super quickly. It only takes 3 minutes to cook. Actually, I do want to add a little more. It only takes about 3 minutes to cook once it is in boiling water. I'm going to add more. I'm going to make this about a pound worth of edamame because this is a lot of soup. When I make soup, I like it mostly broth. That's my own personal preference though. Okay, that's about a cup of edamame. Let's mix it up here. Yeah, so that's only going to take about 3 minutes to cook. And then we're going to add the leftover daikon. And then we're going to add the spinach. See how we're going to add them. We're going to use chopsticks. So with the daikon, we're really just reheating here. I'm actually going to do it like this. I'm going to use maybe a third of these leftovers and lots of this bok choy because I love bok choy in soups. It's so good. We're really just reheating here, and then I'm going to throw the spinach in. The spinach is going to cook super quickly. Spinach wilts almost instantly in soup. Actually, do a little more noodle. So this noodle is actually curried, but I think it's going to give the soup actually a really yummy flavor. I love repurposing leftovers so that they don't go bad, they don't go to waste. We're just going to mix that in, and then we're going to add the spinach next. Let's see here, one of these packs of spinach is 8 ounces. And I'm going to do about half total. Because I like adding green to my soups. The edamame's been in for about 2 minutes, so that should be just about cooked. So yeah, we're just going to cook this for another minute while the spinach wilts, and then we are done here. I'm actually going to turn off the heat because we don't need it to cook anymore. It's a nice looking soup. Alright, I'm going to put it in this big, I have these really great bowls. I got these from this random guy on Facebook Marketplace actually for like $6 a bowl. And I love these things. We met in a public place, so it was totally safe. I wasn't meeting some strange guy in like an alley for bowls or anything like that. Alright. And I'm just going to scoop this up so that you can see. I'm going to have this with some sriracha because I want it a little spicy. And like I said, when I have soup, I actually prefer the broth, so I actually do more broth than anything, really. Try and get some more of this noodle going on. Alright, that is one awesome looking soup. Alright. And here we are. Leftover soup. Super fast, super easy, good when you want to repurpose leftovers so that they don't go bad, and also good if you don't have a lot of stuff left in your fridge. You know, let's say you need to go grocery shopping. So it's also good for that as well. Let me know if you guys have any questions. Feel free to put them in the comments. I am going to post a recipe in the comments as well. And yeah, thank you for watching.